Hello, folks. Hello, viewers. How are you? I'm back again today for a very, very interesting episode which we are going to shoot today. Today, we're doing something different. When I say different, it's not having Asim on the podcast or talking alone and about the book, but it's let's call it the post-mortem of the book. I have a very close friend with me today here, whom I'd like to introduce you to. And let me tell you something about him before I name him. He was the executive vice president of the Oberoi chain of hotels. And then he was the executive vice president of the Kempinski group of hotels. And now he is the CEO of a private equity fund, investment fund, who is getting into the hospitality business. I would call him a veteran in the hospitality business, and there's nobody who doesn't know him. So when I name him, I'm sure people who are in the hospitality business will recognize him. He's been a close friend of mine for the last about 7-8 years. I met him recently, a little late in life, but all the same, I met him. He and his wife Poonam are one of the most wonderful and loving and real and heartwarming couples that I've met in Dubai. Very difficult to get these days in Dubai. And I find him a very, very dear friend. But he is one person who has read my book. I must say, amongst all my friends whom I know, he's one person who has read my book from cover to cover, and that also in one sitting in one day, which I think is something to speak of him as a person and as a friend. And when he rang me up and he says, I need to talk to you, have a coffee with you, because I want to discuss a lot of things, because a lot of things are intriguing my mind about this book and what is behind the book. And I told him, I said, when I talked to him, I said, listen, you are my perfect candidate for my next podcast. And we will now open up my heart about what he really thinks and what are his thoughts on the book. And I would like you to introduce you to Mr. Sanjiv Malhotra, my very close friend and very, very dear friend. Sanjiv, how are you? And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rajan. Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here. I think we must have met in 2018.
Something like that, yes. Yeah.
And I think you were becoming more and more engaged, and then you went through a health.
Yes, I went through a health issue, yes.
That took up some time, and I think when you returned from it, you were ready to tell your story.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the short version of these 8 odd years that we've known each other.
Yeah.
I think when the launch event took place
on the 8th of Feb in Dubai.
8th of February, and magnificently put together. It was something that I think you put it together with a lot of heart in it.
Yes.
And the way you felicitated all the people and living things, I say the word living things, in that moment on that stage.
Yes.
Not only was there immense generosity, but there was also a tremendous amount of generosity of heart.
Yes.
And I think that was beautiful. Poonam and I did buy the book that day, and you honored us by sending it to us with this wonderful message.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you for buying my most precious
my handwriting is a little scrabbly.
Sanjiv, Poonam and Sanjiv, thank you for being in my life. I love you both. Such a big and genuine heart. Hard to find in Dubai. Kamal Gashte. Anyway, lots of love, you said, on the 8th of February. So I think this book must have arrived 2 days later or thereabouts, or 3 days later, the courier delivery. And it was a Saturday morning when I got started at it. And I think must have finished good 3/4 of the book until late this evening. I started in the afternoon, 3/4 of the book, and then I finished it the next morning. And that's when around noon I sent you a message.
You sent me a message, yes.
I've just finished the book. It's been a while since then, obviously February to now. Yeah. And when you read a book and it's very fresh in your mind, there are many immediate questions. And good, over a period of time, I think. So I want to break this into two parts, if I may.
Okay.
The first part is more to do with a broader set of dialogue with you, a broader set of inquiry with you. And the second would be more kind of specific to the other questions that were coming to my mind. I see clearly the book has straddled about 75 years or thereabouts. I see that there is an era of partition. There is an era of your early rebellions. There's an era of adventure. There's an era of engagement and disengagement. And there's an era of new adventure, Dubai being that era.
It's Karachi, Bombay, Dubai.
But even in these Karachi, Bombay, Dubai, they are broken down into several cycles within your own sort of life story
Yes,
that is
yes,
going on.
yes.
You may or may not have seen a film called Sliding Doors. Sliding Doors, in short, is a film where the filmmaker takes that story that if you were in a revolving door and you came out on one street or on a different street or on the third street. So the revolving door leads to 2 or 3 streets. The exits are at 2 or 3 streets.
Right.
And the simile that the director is drawing is that same person who came out and went to street number 1, his or her life took a certain path.
Yes.
Or if they took door number 2, it took a certain path, or door number 3. Walk me through 2 or 3 such sliding doors of your life, just 2 or 3. Had they happened and had you taken, or had the paths that you took versus the one that you did take, if you had taken a different door, where might it have led to? Do you wonder about that? And of course, you know the life you've lived.
Of course.
But what if in those 1, 2, or 3 very critical moments, that would have been life-changing had you taken a different door? So let's talk about 2 or 3 such
Sanjiv, the sliding door issue is very good. It's a very good comparison. And now that you're mentioning this whole episode of sliding door, actually my life has been not 1, 2, or 3, but I think maybe 10, 15, 20 sliding doors that I've gone through in life, starting from my childhood. There was the first sliding door, I'll call it sliding doors now. It was the coming up as a child, as a young boy who just started school. That was the growing years. And what I saw, basically as a child, because I have a granddaughter who's 6 or 7 years old, and that's the time I'm talking about, is their minds are like sponges. You know, they absorb everything that they see, and it remains with you for the rest of your life. That's why, you know, when you see children around you and you're between husband, wife, or father and mother, when they're speaking a bad word, for example, the child picks it up. And then one day when he or she uses it, you said, please don't say that word. She said, but you used it without realizing it. So she picks it up. So these are the years when I was like a sponge, and I was picking up. And that was the life which I saw, which my parents were leading. It's in the book about the parties, the Bollywood, the socializing, the music parties, the big, you know, that stayed with me as a sponge in my brain and came into my DNA, which I follow even today, as you see. I have parties, I have dinner parties, Diwali parties, birthday parties, anything to have a party. And that DNA was brought by my parents when I saw what they were doing. So that came naturally to me, and I continue to have it. So that was the first sliding door, which you call, is how I was brought up. Then I also saw some ugly things. during my growing up within the family, which has left an impression upon me as to why I'm a teetotaler.
Yeah.
You see, everybody, I don't drink. Everybody asks me, why don't you drink? But I've never told them the story about why I don't drink.
You did tell me, and I want you to narrate it.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the reason I don't drink. It's, I had two fathers and two mothers.
Yes.
And they were friends. They were not relatives.
Sayaji.
They were Tayaji and Babiji. So I had two fathers, two mothers, and we were growing up in that environment. And they were chalk and cheese, but they couldn't be without each other. They were a team. And there was, like I said, there was a frame in my hall which said, first plan your work and then work your plan. And I never understood it at that time. But later on in life, I got to understand what was the plan your work and work your plan mean. The first was plan your work was my uncle Tayaji, who planned his work. And then there was the executor, my father, who worked his plan. And they were a team, and they were an unbeatable team. But they lived together all their lives, then they died together till the end. But towards the latter part of the situation when they grew apart, and my uncle went into magic and homeopathy. He was a homeopathic doctor. He used to treat people on Sundays free of cost. Magic, jokes. He wrote a joke book. He was a different personality and a real father to me because he was somebody I could talk to. I used to get his pocket money, my pocket money from him, not from my father. My father was too busy with his socializing, racing, gambling, and the high life, so to speak, because of my uncle J.C. Jain, who was General Manager Times of India and Filmfare and Femina, whatever. So they grew apart later on in life as they retired from LIC. And father never smoked or drank. My uncle became a lonely man. And when he became a lonely man, there was nobody he could go to other than his hobbies of homeopathy, studying and magic and the other things. He started drinking. And when he started drinking slowly, that became a habit. And soon he became boisterous, violent, loud, and it all came out on his wife, my Babiji, my mother. And it got into a very violent situation, and I could see all this as a child growing up. When I saw this thing, then my mother kept the whole unit together. Because not only my parents, Tayaji, Babiji, but my mother, my grandmother, father's mother, and his mother, Mataji and Babuji, were all in one house.
Yes.
So that was the family we had. We had a big house. There was such a lot of strain, and there was a ritual that every morning at 7 o'clock we all have to meet in the hall, and we have to sit in our respective places and have tea. Earlier we used to sit and chat, read the paper, talk. That started becoming lesser and lesser, and everybody did their ritual and went about their work and went to work. That I've seen that phase. That phase I saw slowly, I was watching. Till it reached a stage where one day, my father and Tayaji reached a stage where it blew up, which the volcano was brewing, but it blew up. And when it blew up, the scene that what I saw remained in my mind embedded for life. When we became violent, and then when violent, using their hands, fisticuffs, brothers fighting, two life partners fighting, and we were living on the second floor, and fighting was so bad they went rolling down the steps, and that image remained in my mind forever. And I said, if such a nice person like my Tayaji, whom I treated more of a father than my own father, can turn into a violent person and a different person, it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't like this. This alcohol is the cause of it, and I don't like it. That is the reason why till today, in 70 years, I haven't touched drinks. So that has brought me to that stage. So that was my first outing of the first sliding door number 1, which came to, and that's what I wanted to ask you. That was my first one. Then I had second, third, and all. But as we talk, we'll talk about it.
Draw me towards a sliding door that, if you had chosen, you did name one,
Yes.
which is the moment where in the car park outside with your wife and your parents.
It wasn't the car park actually. It was that was another
So clearly you took a decision.
Yeah.
And had you taken another path, you would have gone that way. So that's a sliding door.
That's another sliding door.
Sliding door. Are there, and that you mentioned in the
Yeah.
Which are the other sliding doors that come to your mind that, had you taken that path, you would have been in a completely different trajectory for a very substantial, long journey?
I don't know. I think, Sanjiv, looking on the hindsight, you see, there is one thing is what you think or what you do, and second is your destiny. What has to happen will happen. And whatever happens, happens for a reason. So I think personally, when I look back on the hindsight, that whatever has happened, eventually has happened for the best. I look at it positively. But as you said that if it hadn't happened, where would you be?
Yeah.
I was thinking that if I had not done what I did, I'm talking in terms of my marriage, the hindsight is there is regret. Regret why? Because you were not there for your children in the growing up days. That is the regret. And if I had to do that again, I would not have taken that step. In fact, I had not going to take that step till that episode of the car park when you said. I had gone to break up that relationship, and had my wife and my father and my uncle not landed where they landed,
Yes.
that I changed my mind completely and went south.
Yes.
The other way. And that was a twist of destiny which happened and that changed everybody's life, my wife's life, my children's life, my parents' life, my life, and her life. That was such a twist of destiny which happened, but it had to happen, it happened. But that is my biggest regret, let me tell you, and that is because of the children, not because of anybody else, because with parents, with wife, everything else is manageable, but they suffered. And they had no right or need to suffer. They're losing their childhood without a father. That is something that if I given a chance, I would do again and not do it under any circumstances.
So we'll keep introducing the undertones or the unresolved, as I call them. In my view, there's some things that are unresolved. And for good reason.
Yeah.
So clearly, the childhood or the loss of childhood that Amit and Nikhil may have faced.
Yeah.
And Nikhil took it upon himself, as he says later, post his graduation,
Yes.
either out of an ultimatum or out of a desire to be with his father. And he came here. But somehow I think, is it true?
It wasn't an ultimatum, it was a desire to know his father.
Yes.
Because he had listened and heard only one side of the story.
Yes.
And so did Amit.
Yes.
But Nikhil decided he wanted to know his father.
father.
And later on, Amit then decided that he wanted to know his father.
Yes.
And when that happened, the stories changed. But carry on.
So, have you been able to recover ground with Amit as you've been able to recover ground with Nikhil? Not that they've not made attempts.
Recovering ground with Amit and Nikhil was there. Amit, I gave him a lot of chances in my business in India with ITL when I brought him over to work with me. Not once, twice, but twice or thrice and everything. And he is a brilliant boy, let me tell you. I mean, he is, again, the Tayaji story comes in. You see, that's history repeating itself. As a person, as a boy, I think he's very intelligent. He's got his facts right. He's a very hardworking boy. And he's street smart like me. He's a hustler. Absolutely, like I am. And he was, till he got into alcohol and bad company. And that's when he became Tayaji. If you see, you know what I'm saying. He became a different person.
Why?
And because of his alcohol and because of maybe his surroundings, his mother, his people telling him of whatever had happened. Because he's seeing what has happened. The father left the marital home. That's all he cared. And he couldn't understand why, because he was too young to think why. But I had my own reasons which I couldn't explain to him because they were too young, which I did, which was a couple of months back when he came to talk to me after 4 years when I wasn't talking to him. And he came to the hotel with a list of 25 things. He had typed out 25 things about what I didn't like. He wants to discuss with me impartially without any emotion or getting angry. And I explained each and every point to him.
And where are you both today?
And we are in very good terms. And we talked to him. His health is not with him. He was drinking and smoking very heavily. He's given that up. He's put on weight. He's 125 kilos. Now I put him on Monjaro, which I was also. And now he's reduced. He has neuropathy in the legs, and he's taking his sleep apnea. And I told him, I sent him, I gave him all that stuff. I said, get into this. He's now much better. I talk to him at least twice a week, if not more. And we communicate a lot. So now we're back on track in terms of whatever it was, because all the gray matter has gone. After our discussion in Bombay at the Oberoi Hotel, where he came to spend 4 hours with me, and I talked to him, and he started crying, and I didn't know all this. I said, you know only one side of the story. If you had come to me, I would have told you. Nikhil realized it much earlier, and that's why he was with me. But now we are on absolutely good terms. And he's running his business, which is the water business, and he's doing well. And I'm happy for him. And I keep guiding him and helping him like I guide Nikhil. So from my side, I'm in a very peaceful, good situation with my children is concerned, which is the most important for me. Everything else is not important.
You talked of your marriage. And you talked about 2-3 important relationships. Cyclically, they end.
Yes.
They have an expiry date.
They have an expiry date, yes.
And they end. And there have been times that the other party has walked away. But is it now, in retrospect, do you think it is something that you are not able to?
There has never been a time, Sanjiv, where the other party has walked away. All the times have been where I have walked away.
All right.
And I
to say it.
And I have been responsible for the expiry date. And I have found excuses and reasons for having that expiry date because, as I said earlier, women are all dogs. We don't think with our brain and heart. We think with something else. And that is the cause of the expiry date. We all find excuses to find fault with the other partner when there is no fault. But it's us which is at fault because we want to move on to something fresh and new. And that has been the cause of all this, whatever has happened. And I am to be blamed for it, not them, because they have never left me. But I have found excuses and reason to leave them, and there was no excuse and reason, which is, I'm admitting it very openly to you today. So all the relationships that I had, with especially the longer one, 22-year-old one which I had, for that relationship to break after 22 years, which is a lifetime, was so stupid, again, for the same reason. And I'm going back and thinking, when I did that with my wife, because of some reason, because we were not emotionally, mentally, physically compatible. For the other reasons, when we were not, we were socially, mentally, physically compatible, I found reason to break that too. That's because you found something new, somebody new, younger, whatever you call it. And that all onus and blame comes on me. Because these things, you are allowed to make a mistake once, not twice, thrice, 4, 5 times. There's no excuse for it.
Let's try and understand this. You have drawn from your early years, you've drawn a lot of values and virtues that you carry till today.
Yeah.
Your desire to be a larger-than-life social figure.
Yeah.
Your desire to be a part of the entertainment and arts industry because of what your adolescent years were, and so on. So where did this DNA come from? Where you have a deep desire to keep moving from one relationship to another beyond a certain point,
Well, this DNA came
There must be a DNA
The
somewhere.
DNA came from somewhere.
Yes, of
but
course.
naming it would be a sin.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
Okay.
Because it was in the blood. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So the DNA came from there. The roving eye, the flirting, the DNA, the relationships, all came from, it was in the blood.
Well, I must also say from my personal relationship with you, in the times I've known you, there's a tremendous amount of grace in you. There's a tremendous amount of graciousness in you. Yes, you may have a flirtatious part of you, but I found you to be extremely respectful to women.
Yes.
At the core of,
Yes, yes.
At the core of behavior.
Yeah.
At the core of behavior. Yes. I mean, now you're a flirtatious old man and you get away with it. But generally speaking, I've seen you to be a very graceful and gracious person with extremely respectful behavior towards women,
Men,
to
yes.
men too, but towards
Yeah,
women.
yeah.
So this is not a surface problem. This is not.
No.
It's not a
Yeah,
surface
no,
issue.
no,
If you know what I mean.
No, being flirtatious or being, having a roving eye, I think is every man's right. Everybody does it at some point or the other. Some do it more, some do it less. But all the same, given a chance, you get a little bit of that. But I've, as I said, had it in my blood. So I have it, and so do my children.
Oh, okay.
Right? So my children too have that, the same flirtatious habit, the same roving eye. Everybody does. I'm friends with them. I talk to them, and they've had their relationships, they've had their fun, whatever it is, and of course now they're both married, settled down, and they're good. But it's not been harmful in the sense. It has been harmful in my relationship because they have suffered. They have suffered because they've given 5 years, 10 years, 22 years, whatever of their lives to your relationship. Mm-hmm. And they have given a part of themselves to you. Mm-hmm. And you owe them that. I mean, which woman spends 5 years, 10 years, 20 years with you, and then suddenly one fine day you say, your credit card is expired, and I'm not renewing it. So that is something that you've left, it's like a twister which comes in movies, like a hurricane, a tornado that comes in your life and devastates everything that comes. And when you look behind, you see nothing but rubble. And that's what I have done in their lives. And that's the twister or the tornado which I came and devastated for life. And all of them whom I know today, I'm in touch with today and friends with today, are still single. And I asked them why. They said, no, we always sit and compare and see. But at that time, we never found, we thought that we could move on. But we tried, we couldn't find somebody as good, loving, respectful, and affectionate as you are. And that's why we are still single, all of them. And I think on this point, I would like to take a break and said that we will continue this topic. Sanjiv, it's very interesting. We're going to continue this topic on the same thing. We will take a break when we come in our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.